Okay, so this is one of the strangest, most fascinating stories from the Book of Kings. It's this ancient puzzle, really, all about obedience, deception, and a series of events that are just bizarre, starting with a mystery that on the surface makes absolutely no sense at all.
Right, here's the central riddle, the thing that just hooks you. Imagine a lion attacking a man on a road. You're thinking it's going to be a pretty brutal scene, right? But that's not what happens here. The lion kills the man and then just stops. It stands guard. It doesn't eat the body, and even weirder, it doesn't touch the man's donkey, which is just standing there, totally calm, right next to its master's killer.
So people traveling down this road come across this completely surreal sight. You've got a dead prophet, a calm donkey, and a lion acting less like a predator and more like some kind of sentinel. It's a real head-scratcher. So to understand how we got here, to this exact moment, we've got to rewind and go back to the very beginning of this prophet's mission.
Our story really kicks off with this figure we only know as the man of God from Judah. He's sent by God on this super important mission to a city called Bethel, and he's got a powerful and pretty dangerous message for its king, a guy named Jeroboam.
So this man of God, he does not mess around. He walks right up to King Jeroboam, who's in the middle of a ceremony at a pagan altar, and he just lets him have it with this thunderous prophecy. He predicts that a future king, Josiah, is going to come along and completely desecrate this altar by sacrificing its own priests on it. I mean, talk about bold. That is a seriously dangerous thing to say to a king's face.
And the king, you could imagine, is absolutely furious. He points at the prophet, yells, "Seize him," to his guards, but right then, in that very instant, we see this incredible sign of divine power. The king's hand just withers up. It becomes totally paralyzed right there in midair. He can't even pull it back.
And it doesn't stop there. As the king's hand is shriveling, the altar itself cracks right in two, and all its ashes spill out onto the ground, exactly like the prophet said would happen. There is absolutely no doubt now that this man speaks for God. The king is so terrified, he actually begs the prophet to pray for his hand to be healed, and it is.
So after all that drama, after demonstrating his power so clearly, the man of God faces his first big test. Not of power, but of his own personal obedience. The king, who's maybe grateful, or maybe just really scared, invites him to the palace for food and a reward.
But the prophet's answer is a hard no. He doesn't even hesitate. See, his instructions from God were super specific. Deliver the message, then get out of town. He wasn't supposed to eat, drink, or even go home on the same road he came in on. And he passes this first test perfectly, resisting the temptation of a king's hospitality.
Okay, so everything seems to be going great, right? The prophet was completely obedient. But this is where the story takes a tragic and very weird turn. As the man of God is heading home, word about what he did spreads and reaches an old prophet who lives in Bethel. And this old prophet is so intrigued, he saddles up his donkey to go find him.
And this, right here, is the absolute crux of the story. The old prophet finds the man of God and invites him home for a meal. The man of God repeats the command he was given. Nope, can't do it. But then the old prophet tells him a lie, a very clever lie. He says, "Oh, an angel told me to bring you back." He makes it sound like a new, updated command from God. And the man of God, who stood up to a powerful king, actually believes the lie from a fellow prophet. He turns around and goes back with him.
And that one mistake, that single act of listening to a human voice over the original, clear command from God, well, it seals his fate. The consequences come fast, and they're delivered in the most ironic way you can imagine.
Get this. While they're both sitting there at the dinner table, the same old prophet who just told the lie suddenly gets a real prophecy from God. He cries out that because the man of God from Judah disobeyed, he won't get an honorable burial back home in his family tomb. The liar is literally forced to pronounce judgment on the very man he just tricked.
So let's just break down this tragic journey, because it's so important. Step 1, he gets a crystal clear command from God. Step 2, he shows incredible strength by resisting a king. But step 3, he falls for a much sneakier trap, a lie from someone he should have been able to trust. And that leads directly to step 4, his death on the road. Which brings us right back to that bizarre scene with the lion and the donkey.
You'd think the story might end there, but nope, it gets even weirder. The focus actually shifts back to the old prophet, the liar, and his actions become just deeply confusing.
When the old prophet hears what happened with the lion, he knows exactly what it means. He goes out, gets the body, and then does something incredible. He buries the man he deceived in his own family tomb, an act of the highest honor. He leads the mourning, crying out, "Alas, my brother." He even tells his sons that when he dies, they should bury him right next to this man of God. It's this baffling show of respect and maybe even grief from the person who caused the whole disaster.
So let's just run through that one more time. It starts with a clear command and strict rules. That leads to the big confrontation with the king. Then comes the fatal deception from the other prophet, which leads to the divine judgment from the lion. And it all wraps up with that strange, honorable burial by the deceiver himself. And that scene with the lion and the donkey, that was the sign for everyone. This wasn't just some random animal attack, this was an act of God.
And what about the king? The man who saw his own hand wither and his altar split in two? Surely he changed his ways after seeing all that, right? Nope, not a chance. The text is very clear. Even after all this, King Jeroboam kept right on with his evil practices, and it ultimately led to the complete destruction of his dynasty.
Which leaves us with this final, really tricky thought. The man of God from Judah, he delivered a 100% true prophecy, but he failed his own test of obedience. The old prophet from Bethel, he told a catastrophic lie, but he also spoke a true prophecy and seemed to genuinely honor the man he doomed. So it makes you ask a complicated question. In the end, what carries more weight? The absolute truth of the message or the flawed integrity of the person who's delivering it?